What's up, traders? Today's video is going to be a little bit different. I want to do a quick educational video on how to trade ranges and so far what I've learned and how I trade them. And I just want to share with you some of the information, some of the knowledge, and hopefully you gain some info out of this. And yeah, let's get started. So the first thing in trading ranges is you want to identify top and bottom of the range. And the way you do that is grab your range tool and you drag a line across, and you want to get as many touches as possibly can, and pretty much an even levels. So you can clearly see that we have touch here, bunch of touches here, touch here, and same thing on the bottom. Now sometimes the ranges are not perfect, and this is trading, nothing is perfect, but as long as you can get a nice little couple touches here and there, like I have it on here, this range will be perfect. And this is from the 19th of May data. So we have a nice little range coming pretty much beginning of the day. And as you can clearly see, we have a nice price action at the top, and we have a nice price action at the bottom. Now the main thing about ranges, and this is very important, is that you want to basically buy low and sell high. Okay, you want to buy or sell here in this area, and you want to buy here in this area. Okay, as some of you already know that most breakouts fail, so please don't try to trade the breakout. You clearly see in this example right here, breakout fail, not so much here, and you can clearly see here as well towards the end of the range, failed breakout here. And that's very important. Do not trade anything in between. Do not trade here. This right here, this area is no man's land. You do not want to trade here. This we get chopped up, you will lose. Just pay attention, be patient, and always wait for the price to come up, and then you want to sell, and when the price is coming down, and then you want to buy. And the only thing I could tell you this is also don't try to predict the market either. Don't try to be smart and get ahead of the market. It will burn you. I promise you, it will burn you. Your job in range is clearly watch the market, watch the price, and see what it does, and then go with the price. Whether it's a failed breakout, whether it's a continuation to the upside or the downside, whatever it is, your job is to go with the price. Let's move on to the next one. Now the second thing is extremely important in range, especially when it's tight range just like this. This is a 12-point range. Is you want to pay attention to the midline. This is a blue little dotted line. I don't know if you can really see it. Let me zoom in real quick. This line right here, that's the midline, and you can clearly see that it's paying very important levels in this range. You can clearly see price bouncing off of it multiple times. Okay, you want to really pay attention to this. It's extremely important. There is a second entry short right here that you probably would have taken, and you would have got burned. And why? Because there's a midline, right? There's a clear midline. You probably maybe wouldn't got a scalp out of that if you were played it right. Barely got a scalp out of that, but you can clearly see that it's playing a huge role in this price action. Now, sometimes when the ranges are bigger, the midline is not really, I mean, it is still important. You still want to pay attention to it, but sometimes it doesn't really play a huge role. But in tight ranges just like this, it's extremely important to pay attention to it. And also, this is just my personal preference or my personal opinion. I think the midline is way more important than the actual EMA in the range. Mac always says the EMA doesn't really matter in the range, and I agree with that. But I think the midline is way more important, especially, like I said, in the smaller, tighter ranges. So please do pay attention to it. Extremely important. Let's move on. Now the last thing I want to talk about of trading ranges is your channels. And I know Thomas Wade talks about this a lot. And he always says that you want to draw your channels nice and tight, because bigger channels, for example, something like this, do not work in a range. Okay, and again, I want to make sure I'm clear that I'm talking about a smaller, tighter range. When you're in a bigger range, right, yes, they're still valid, but generally speaking, you always want to pay attention to a short-term trend channels. For example, something like this, we have a break new low, and then of course something like this, we have a break new high basically. And of course, same thing here. You have a break and a new low. So very, very important. And always draw your channels nice and tight to gives you a nice clear idea of what the price is doing and where it's going next. Okay, and like I said before here, you probably would have got burned on this second entry just because you probably had your channel something like this, or even better, probably something like this. And you can clearly see that there's a second entry short at the key entry point right below the EMA next to the trend line. But you can clearly see, as I talked about, the midline plays a huge role. You may even have an overshoot here, and even then, if you have it just like this, you have an overshoot, which usually means that the price might break the channel and come back to the other side, which is exactly what it did here. So really pay attention to smaller short-term trend channels. They'll be a key to your success in trading these kind of ranges. So the last thing I want to talk about is actually how you actually trade the ranges and what I personally look for when I see this type of price action. So the first thing I look for is basically a failed breakout. As you may or may not know, most breakouts fail, and what I look for is nice signal bar, and I want to always make sure it's not an inside bar. I don't trade inside bars, but you can clearly see there's a failed breakout basically. I also look for a triple test, which I consider this a triple test right here. Technically speaking, that's I guess you can call it a fail second entry long, but for me personally, it has to happen below the EMA. Then I consider it a failure, but hey, it is what it is. And like I said, I don't look anything to trade in the middle. I avoid this. There's a second entry short failure here. There's a second entry short. We talked about this. I just avoid it. I don't look for it. And same thing here. I look for, like I said, failed breakout, triple test, and a higher lows. There's a lower high here, but that's too far from me from the top. I want my lower high to be somewhere in this area, maybe like somewhere here if the price comes back a little bit more. But that's how I trade ranges. And honestly speaking, if you're new and you're not used to trading ranges, avoid this stuff. Just go take a break and take an hour or two break and come back and wait for the price to make this kind of moves, and then resume trading. It's really easy to get caught up in this sideways action, and sometimes you don't get sometimes the price just goes sideways for a whole day. As you can clearly see on a daily chart, we had a few days that were just going sideways, and that's okay. It's better to wait it out and take sure thing, like Mac always says, take the sure thing, than losing money, have to lose money. So but yeah, and you can also clearly see like another failed breakout here as well. Technically speaking, that's a third entry long, but I mean, if you wanna visually see it, like basically a break, a new low in place. So maybe even title like this. Yeah, break new low. Anyways, so you get my point. So like I said, just quickly recap. Always mark your top and bottom of the range. Wait for the price to come back to the top and or the bottom, and then go with the price. Let the price tell you where it's going and just go with it. Don't try to get fancy. Don't try to outsmart the market. And like I said, if you have a good signal bar, take it. That's it. Don't really look for second entries. Don't trade in this middle area. That's a no man's land. Avoid all of this. Just wait for the price to come back down or up, and then decide what you want to do. Okay. And that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was educational, and I hope you guys like this content. And if you do, let me know. If you have any questions, like I said, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. But yeah, that's it for me. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.